Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Tina, where we come together and talk about all things narcissism and the family court system, specifically child custody issues, whether it's family court, which I don't wish on anyone, or the reality of co-parenting with a high conflict toxic individual. Good morning, Alex. I am Tina Swithin, author of Divorcing a Narcissist, founder of One Mom's Battle. I am not qualified to give you legal advice, but I love bringing this community of survivors together so we could talk through all of these things where there's just no rule book. That's actually the name of my next book. There will be one, but until then, good morning, Gigi. Good morning, and you're welcome, Alex. So, who has been watching the Brittany Spears stuff and her outing, Jane Schatz and Family Bridges? Who would have thought that Brittany Spears may actually be the one to take down or to shed light on the reality of this Bridges program and the junk science alienation movement? I never saw this coming. I watched her documentary and it absolutely broke my heart. And I was incensed and I just kept thinking, how can this continue to happen in our society? And then I'm like, well, that's a silly question. Look what everybody else is going through with family court. And, it's just to normal people who don't deal with things like this, it feels like you're in the upside down world or you fell down, into Alice in Wonderland. And it defies logic. But, her story, I listened to the transcripts of her talking, and gosh, it sounds like what she was in with this Family Bridges type program is exactly what all of these kids are being sent into. And I've referred to it as organized gaslighting. Where you're being told that your reality is not really your reality. She has been drugged. I mean, it is just unbelievable to me that we're not all, thank God she has this amazing group of fans. I wish we did in the family court system. And because it needs to be exposed. And I'm so happy that what has been done to her is finally being exposed. And I look forward to celebrating the day that exposure happens for the family court system. And, it gives me hope that, the Jane Schatz of the world, the Bridges programs, what people are being forced to spend and the further abuse that their kids are subjected to, she's sharing with the world that it's happening to her and could potentially, in a weird way, be a voice for our kids who are, anyone who's profiting off of this alienation junk science deserves a prison cell, as far as I'm concerned. And good morning, Gigi and Kelly and Michelle and Dina. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to jump right in. I do have, I should share. On Monday, I am delivering my victim impact statement. I will be giving my testimony at my ex-brother-in-law's sentencing date, which is Monday afternoon. And it's been a lot, writing this statement. For those of you who don't follow my story or haven't followed my story, I'm going to summarize it real quick. My ex-brother-in-law was one of the biggest points of contention for me fighting to keep my kids away from him. My ex-brother-in-law knew that was my biggest button, so he directly kept, placing my kids around this human vile, evil human who has been found guilty of 52 counts of child sexual abuse and photographing and videotaping minors. It's horrific. He'll never see the light of day, thankfully. But for me, it's not just the trauma of the family court system. Like for so many of you, it's, you look at the full relationship and what a mind that is. And then the family court system, that's a whole nother trauma. And then even when I had protected my kids in 2014, then his brother was arrested in 2016. If you want to look him up, his name is Jason Robert Porter. He is now guilty, so I feel more comfortable calling it out. Jason Robert Porter from Paso Robles, California. Then he was arrested in 2016, and we've been waiting for 5 years. It's the longest running criminal trial in the history of San Luis Obispo County. And the most horrific child sex abuse case, the case with the most number of victims. He's won all kinds of mortifying awards for his horrific actions. And it's finally coming to an end. This will be the first time in 12 years, because the overlap between his arrest and my custody case, that we don't have a court date on the calendar. There's no hearing, there's no trial. I don't even know what that feels like. And I'm really looking forward to finding out, because this is a journey that I would not wish on anyone. And my heart goes out to all of you who are still on this journey in some capacity, fighting to protect your babies. Don't give up, because my story is proof that you never know what's around the next corner. And a lot of people will say, Tina, your situation is the rare unicorn of the court system where your kids were protected. And I do believe that. However, I do see other success stories. And one of the things that I found in my own journey, and I have found watching so many others through my coaching business, or just advocating alongside others, is that you truly never know what the next day holds. And that could be a family court professional who gets it, who happens to be appointed to your case and knows what this is, and hasn't drank the Kool-Aid that kids deserve two parents, or should always have two parents no matter what, to the detriment of the child. So you never know. No matter how dark things feel, no matter how corrupt things are, I see changes happening. I see pockets of corruption and collusion exposed. If you haven't shared your story, or the bad family court professionals or the good ones who have been a part of your case, we are collecting that data, and we're in touch with a major researcher who could potentially use a lot of this information. We're willing to share it with those people. But if you go to intheirbestinterest.com, there's a space where you can actually share your family court story. We would never publicly use it without your permission. There's another area where you can share, or if you have adult children who have aged out of the system, or are now protected and they would like to share their story, we want to hear it. So there's a second spot for that. But then the third, and the database, which is, in my opinion, the most important, share your experiences with different family court professionals. Specifically the ones that need to be on our radar, who are, the alienation experts, which we want to take down that movement, or the, just very pro-parent evaluators, whatever. Share their information. There's a way you can do it anonymously. We would prefer to have your name behind the scenes so we can contact you and connect you with others if needed. Because, for example, if we find 10 people who have had the exact same experience with a child custody evaluator in Maryland, and we see a pattern of all the same story, that they were very anti-mom, very pro-dad, pro-abusive dad, and no, we love dads here, we love good dads, we will reach out to all 10 people and say, hey, there are others who have been affected by this same person. Can we connect you with them behind the scenes? And we would love to start doing that. And that feeds into the One Mom's Battle chapters, our private chapters. If you go to ombchapters.com, you can join your local chapter. And this is where we need to start coming together, comparing notes, sharing our experiences, asking questions, educating ourselves on the system so that we can shed light in the darkness. So I didn't plan to go off on all of that, but I'm glad I did, because it's really important. And thank you all for interesting. You mentioned Maryland. Well, you're always on my mind, Gigi. I love that you join every week. And she's in my coach training program, so I'll see her right after this. Maybe. I don't know if you're on today. Anyway, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your kind words for Monday. It's a big day for me, so I had nightmares about it all last night, and I'm just looking forward to it being over. So the first question that I'm going to answer today, or we're going to talk about, what is the best way to divide contents of the home with the narcissist? Well, the only way they will be satisfied is if you are left with the only mismatched towel in the whole set, and they take everything else from the house. And you can bet after you sign off on all of that, they're going to come back the next day and ask for that towel back. So that's my summary. How true is that, though? If you have experience, I always love when people share their experiences. I can't give legal advice, but I'll tell you, I learned very early on that the narcissist, the finances, the material items, that was what was important to him. And so much of this comes down to profiling, strategy. We have to be operating from our strategic mindset at all times. And so you need to look at this person almost like the FBI would look at a criminal, and you want to create a profile. What's important to them? What's their baseline? What are their triggers? All of those things. Get into their mind as much as you can. It's an ongoing process, I will say that. And it's hard when you are so triggered and traumatized by this person to start looking at it through the lens of strategy. But 9 times out of 10, the material items and the finances become your leverage. And I like to preface this with, if you are financially in need of support, of, the money from the estate, all of those things, there's no judgment. I've been there. I get it. I was absolutely dependent, but my goal from day one was to get out from under that, because I knew that the finances and the things would end up being the leverage that I needed to protect my kids. And obviously there's no one size fits all approach. For this, everyone's case is so different. There are so many variables that come into play in all of our cases and situations, but start looking at it that way. What is important to this person? Where can I leverage that to have what matters most to me, which is the kids, or protecting the kids? One disclaimer I will give you, be careful and make sure you're working with an attorney who is strategy focused and who gets it, and who is willing to have you on as a strategy partner to talk through these things. One of the things to be aware of, and something that I see happen a lot, people give up everything. They give up the retirement accounts, all of it, just to secure more time with their kids. And then the very next day, the narcissist comes in and files for 50-50. So now you've lost everything material and financial, and now you're where you were going to be in the beginning, because we're in a 50-50 court system, but now you have no resources to fight. Be careful with that. One of the things I've seen people put into place is that custody can't be revisited for a certain amount of time. Talk to your attorney. If this isn't the right attorney, find a different one who is willing to look at things from different perspectives and angles and really hear you. Because for them, for the attorneys, a lot of times, they judge their win by finances and how much money they secured for you. They need to know, here's my bottom line, and I'm willing to use the finances to negotiate, but, my kids are the number one. If you want to win this case, to me, winning means I could be penniless, but my kids are safe. Obviously, that's a stretch. You don't want to be penniless if you can avoid it, but you need to communicate with your attorney, because a lot of times they really have a one-size-fits-all approach with their strategy, and that revolves around money. So lots of things to think about. But again, read the comments, because there's tons of different experiences and perspectives on these topics. But, when you're I would sit down and create a spreadsheet of all of the material items and then highlight the ones that matter most to the narcissist. That's your leverage. So hopefully that will get you in the mindset of figuring out your approach and your strategy that will work for you. Number 2, this is a doozy, trigger warning on sexual abuse. How to protect your 1-year-old child from sexual abuse after her dad got away with it the first time. These are the most heartbreaking cases that come across my desk on any given day, and they're incredibly prevalent, and that's hard. Sexual abuse in family court is the nuclear weapon of accusations, and the majority of time it backfires on us as the protective parent. There is this horrible bias that moms make these accusations up in an effort to get a leg up in custody. I will tell you, in my decade of working with people one-on-one, there's not a single case of child sexual abuse that I believe has been fabricated. I just don't. I don't. I believe survivors, and no one would sign their child up to be put through the process of, identifying child sexual abuse, whether it's the physical examinations. No one that I've ever come across has done that. And so I wish I had a different answer. What so much of this becomes is empowering our kids behind the scenes, getting a really good therapist on board who can help you navigate it. But the reality, from my perspective, is that until a child is holding a bullhorn, 6, 7 years old, shouting from the rooftops and naming their perpetrator, not a lot is done. It becomes our kids becoming their own advocates and their own voices and saying, this is not okay. That's really dangerous territory, because you have to make sure that everything you've done along the way is that your side of the street is so sparkling clean that you're not going to be accused of coaching this child. And so you want to really be again, plug for attorneys who get it, who are, skilled at navigating these things, this is a topic that most attorneys don't want to touch. We do keep a database of attorneys. We can't personally endorse them, but just in all of these topics in general, there are attorneys who have come recommended by others on the battlefield, and that's located at Friends of OMB, onemomsbattle.com. If you have an attorney that you feel should be on that list, one that really gets it, get their permission, and then email us at friendsofomb@gmail.com with we need a picture of them, we need their the name, their firm name, email address, phone number, website, address, all of their information and their permission, and we're happy to add them to our database because that's a huge part of the problem. Attorneys who are unethical and who don't believe survivors, who are not trauma informed, don't understand domestic violence. It's our goal to create a database for people to go to. But right now, it's not very big, and that's sad. It says a lot. So abuse is hard to prove. The threshold of what's acceptable is really high. The court system puts up with a lot, and they shouldn't, but they do. And, so many things weave into that. The victim blaming mentality that we chose these people, it's not their problem to fix, all of these things. But, child sexual abuse is a big topic for so many of us. And I do have a really small group of people formed who are dealing with child sexual abuse issues. The group is not as active as I would love for it to be, but it's not the group you want to grow. I'll tell you that. It's the most heartbreaking part of what I do is this topic. So my heart goes out to you if you are currently battling to protect your kids from child sexual abuse claims. I should say my final thought on that. I've seen this play out a couple of different ways. The ones who keep their mask on super tight and have an image and a reputation to uphold and care about that, an accusation of child sexual abuse directed towards them, their life flashes before their eyes. And there's been a lot of situations where I've seen they know that their world just almost came crashing down. And just that spotlight on them makes them proceed very carefully in the future. It doesn't change who they are. They're still an abuser, but they are now fearful of your child talking about this, or so they stop. And I see it happen a lot where there were abuse, absolutely credible sexual abuse issues, and then they're gone. Then there are the others who just get more covert about it. Don't give up. It's a painful topic. Gigi, it's just a Facebook group that I started a while back because I had a couple of moms whose kids were being sexually abused. And so I started it a while back on Facebook. I can see how, I had skin cancer stuff burned off this week. I'm like, it's really bright with the lights on me. So yeah, if you want more information, you know where to find me. How to get the ex to agree on our family wizard. He objects to it, but he won't say why, even though I've asked several times, and I'm willing to pay for it. So I'll tell you my strategy, which didn't start out as a strategy. I had proposed our family wizard to my ex, and I'll tell you, I don't like our family wizard at all. I don't like the company. They are very affiliated with the AFCC, which is tied into fathers' rights organizations. It's just a big, gross group. But the reality is our family wizard is a good communication platform, and it's the one that's most recognized by the family court system. They're also now tying themselves into the alienation garbage and junk science. They have Brooke Olson, they're promoting his classes. I dislike the company very much, and I used to promote them. So that is my 2 cents on the program. So my strategy, which did not start out as a strategy, was to email my ex-husband with the bullet points from the website saying looks like a fantastic tool for us. I believe it'll help so much with our co-parenting, communication, yada, yada. He said he made a jab at me about where I spend child support money, all that stuff, which was I expected. One of the things I share is if you're shocked by the attack you get back from the narcissist, you haven't completely embraced radical acceptance and you're not managing your expectations appropriately. Because if I expect my ex to write back with logical, common sense thinking, I'm setting myself up for disappointment. For me, that's on me. So I got his jab back, and then I wrote back and I said, hey, are you open to sharing what your concerns are about the program? Because I'd love to hear that. And I feel so strongly that this program could help us that I'm willing to pay for it. I'm willing to pay for your program and mine, which I just did. Here's the login information. All you have to do is call in and get it set up. That email was referenced in my child custody evaluation by the court. That painted me in such a positive light. And that's where people really make huge errors. They're so intent and focused on getting the court or the professionals to see how toxic the other parent is that they don't show up in their authentic, true light. So for me, that type of email, it wasn't strategy. That's who I am. I hate conflict. And so I just wanted to end it. But that email, that strategy has now been used by so many of my coaching clients. I've sat in court and listened to judges read the email from people who I've worked with and give them brownie points for being such amazing co-parents that they would go above and beyond to that level. So that's your good strategy tip for the day, to really present yourself in a good light. It's doing things like that. That's who I am authentically. My guess is if you're here joining me, it's who you are also. So those are the types of things. But so, offer, if you're willing to pay for it and you said you are, do that. And then if there's family court professionals involved in your case, you can loop them in. You can escalate it to your attorney and say, hey, I don't understand. I can't get a straight answer on what the issue is with this, but I really think this will help me. I'm hopeful it will help us, and I've paid for it. Can you reach out to opposing counsel, anywhere you can extract yourself from the conflict? And sometimes when it comes from attorneys or a GAL, if you have one that's halfway decent, it can get pushed into play without the conflict between the two of you. So, talking parent, Angela, talking parents is the other one that seems to really be recognized and embraced by the court system. There are lots of I just did a podcast. It was called Peaceful Co-Parent. That's a new app that's out there. But the two that are most recommended by the court are OFW and Talking Parent. So that is my coffee with Tina today. Thank you all so much for joining me. I love seeing all your familiar names and faces and new ones. So thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.